From the world of AV programming and control with James King, I'm Steve Greenblatt, and this is Ask the Programmer. James, how are you today? I'm glad we're back and looking forward to this episode.
See, this is going to be a great topic. Looking forward to it. And how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. If you didn't catch our episode from last week, we had Marc LaVecchia from BMA Software Solutions, and we're welcoming him back again today. He wrote an article entitled "Modules, Plugins, and Drivers: The Case for Supporting Them." Last episode was episode 191, and prior to that, Mark's been on in episodes 132 and 133. Welcome back, Mark.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks for being with us. And where we left off on the last episode, we really were talking about the fact that manufacturers in the industry need to understand the importance of API integrations, and that's the general term for modules, drivers, and plugins. And the way I see this is similar to if you were working, if Zoom didn't have a way of connecting with Outlook and a way of connecting with Google to do scheduling, that would be a fail. And somebody isn't going to, they could do that manually, but that's something that is important to the success of the platform, and being able to work between different pieces of software or different products is critical to our industry. So, Mark, in your article, you said, this is something that's a game changer, and it impacts profitability. One of the things that I wanted to dive into is really what makes a module driver or plugin effective, because we referred to the fact that this really needs to be taken seriously.
Well, and I think the way I referenced it in the article is manufacturer sanctioned or manufacturer approved or backed, or whatever phrase our industry wants to give it. The point being that it, whether it's module, driver, or plugin, it needs the manufacturer's support all the time. It's not just something that you could just create and throw out there and let it go. And the reason for that is firmware changes happen all the time. There are all kinds of feature changes that happen all the time. So if you're going to do this, what you want to do is have this developed by somebody who is working with, if you're going to sub it out to somebody or you're going to hire somebody at the manufacturer to do this for you, you need to be in contact with the people, with the manufacturers that your device is working. You need to be in constant contact. So when they say, I have a new feature coming out, we can get that into the module, driver, plugin, and get those updated. And we need this because if you've ever had a project that was commissioned and signed off and done, and then all of a sudden somebody updated firmware on a piece of equipment and now things don't work. Everybody has experienced that. Years ago, there was a video conference company that, really screwed with a major controls company, but they made some changes. The controls company wasn't aware of it. And we had countless calls from all over the country. Why is my codec not working? And it's because that communication was missing. And so that to me is critical. It's not just enough to create it. You have to maintain it. And you have to make sure that the people that are talking to each other are talking to each other all the time.
James, hopefully this is something that's a confidence builder, and being able to make a commitment and feel like you're not going to be in a situation where you described in the last episode, you have something, you think it's going to work, and when it doesn't, what do you do? Because that's the worst feeling in the world. You're almost better off not having anything than feeling like you have something that should work and you're in the field, and now what do you do? You're scrambling because you've lost your opportunity to even develop something yourself. Um, it, is there something that manufacturers can do to help to provide that level of confidence like Mark's describing?
Um, yeah, I would say kind of what Mark said, maybe hire either a full-time person or, have a subcontractor that you work with that handles those aspects. And then what's very key is actually vetting, testing, and then deploying when you do things. I mean, let's go back and look at CrowdStrike. Yes, we've talked about CrowdStrike. There was a change in the code rolled out. Look what happened. we can kind of say like we have our own mini CrowdStrike in AV, as Mark said. You update the firmware, and all of a sudden something's not working. Now, yeah, it's a little more localized and stuff like that, but that goes back to the whole testing and verification. And I think really where manufacturers need to do is pay more attention what is going on with their systems, like how their systems interact with other systems. This was a pet peeve of mine years ago. Was I'm sure we all remember Flash. Adobe has been saying for 2 years they were killing off Flash. They were sending out announcement. We're killing off Flash. Here is the end of life of Flash. This is when Flash will stop working. Saying it for 2 years. And then the date came, they killed Flash, as they said. And I had multiple AV manufacturers go, we don't know what to do. Well, our product is not working now because Flash, it was on Flash. I'm like, you had 2 years to fix this.
So it's basically owning the responsibility of being able to keep up with technology and make sure that your products stay current and are supportable. Um, Mark, if we look at things from a programmer's perspective, you know, I think there's a significant impact that they have in knowing that they have somebody to call, they have somebody that understands them, and that there's an avenue for them to go if they need help. I guess explain a little bit about what that's like when you're when you have a project and you're like you said in the last uh, episode that profitability gets eaten away very quickly, but when you have the confidence of knowing where to go when you need help.
That's critical, and I think it plays a role for us at the front end of it. So when we, and it's important to point this out, I think, because it's easy to talk about, I'm in the field, it's not working, what am I going to do? But oftentimes our customers come to us with a design and drawings and a bill of materials, and we go through that with them and make sure that there are the necessary modules, plugins, and drivers that are available for us. And if not, what are we going to do about that? And one of the first things we do is look for what's available, and then we look for where it came from and who was responsible for it, and are they available for us? And we need them to help us out. And a lot of times it's not that it's just not there. Um, there are companies that we know who to call. And I know on that we have a number we've done, and I'm okay to say, I mean, you've done a lot with BIAMP, Steve, your company. And so my guys are working on a BIAMP and they have an issue with something, they know where to go. And they go to your team and your team responds immediately and we get an answer and we move along. And that's the way that this should work. Because when that doesn't happen, then again, we're spending time in the field trying to make something work that should work. And for some reason, it's just giving us a headache right now. Sometimes maybe it's just there's some little thing that we didn't do right. Okay. But if it becomes something that it's one thing if we can replicate the problem. All right. We're working with the module, we're communicating with it, everything's working. All of a sudden, it's not working. What happened? Well, when I did this and that, now it stopped working. So I go back and I do this and I do that and it stops working. I can replicate that. Okay. Now but if I can't replicate what's going on, man, I need a lifeline. Like I need somebody that can get in there, because not being able to replicate is where you start burning time. Now you're trying to figure out what's going on. And from a troubleshooting standpoint, that's crucial for our team. They need to be able to replicate what's happening. And the job that I mentioned in the article, it was happening one place and then it would stop happening and then it would happen in another place and it would stop happening. And everybody's like, what in the hell is going on? What is this? And it was very frustrating and costly. So for us, it's not a question of just that it's proven, but it really needs documentation and the support. Documentation is really crucial. Support is really crucial. And especially because if you don't know who's going to get their hands on that module, okay, or plugin or driver, uh, you if you don't know who's going to get it and they're going to call for support, you don't know what's on the other end of that phone. They may not know anything about what's going on. They just saw your number. So you want to make sure that you have consistency and documentation and stuff so that people can find what they're looking for to get in and get out, make the product work, sign it off, get on to the next project.
And to your point too, and if we kind of turn it on in a little bit of a different direction, we're used to talking in the world of code and programming when we say that we're deploying a control solution because we're able to do it from a custom programming perspective. But there's a lot of people that use the configuration platforms. Those situations are even more dependent on having these integrations built because those programmers, although still have certain talents and skills and knowledge, they don't have that same tool set to be able to troubleshoot, to be able to work around, to be able to pull something out and put something in that or come up with something on the fly.
Well,
So
and I think there are some manufacturers that are very good at that. I think Extron has done a very good job from that perspective. If I'm all right calling out manufacturers, but I agree, and that's kind of what you're saying. What I'm saying is like you don't know the level of capability that's on the other end of that phone. That's you know that's for me. Like I don't know, Dick James, if somebody called you because you're doing university work, right? So you're doing a higher education. So you're going to have somebody reach out to you if something's not working or there's something like going on. Is it a chance that it's a professor or a teacher or is it that, and at that point, is that something that happens in your world for this?
So yeah, we do get call. So our actual users, because I know in the AV realm, we're as tech managers are considered the users of the system, but
Okay.
we're not. We don't use it. We just put them in. Um, so our true users will contact us when, yeah, something is not working, and then we go through steps of troubleshooting or, bringing our key partners in to help us solve the issue. So, yeah, I mean, documentation and support is very critical. I think support to me is the most critical part than anything. Yeah, reliability is important, all that stuff, but we work in the world of technology. We, as technology experts, we're SMEs in technology. We know technology is going to fail. It is the nature of
Right.
technology.
Right. Right.
When that fails, I need to be able to pick up the phone, talk to somebody, and get my problem solved. That if I can't, I'm going to be more upset with the company than knowing that, hey, this piece of equipment failed.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I've said on one of these other podcasts that I say probably once a week, whether anybody wants to hear it or not, the documentation and communication are undefeated. They never lose. If you have both of those at your disposal, they never lose. So it's not a question if something goes wrong. It's a question of who's there to help you fix it when it goes wrong, and how fast can they get it fixed. I have a friend that travels a lot, and he uses Twitter to challenge the airlines and the luggage and the hotels. And I mean, he just beats the daylight if they're not giving him the service he wants. And you see, if somebody jumps on it, gets him, he's like, "Hey, everybody, Delta really crushed it for me this week. And that's what we're talking about. It's a little bit different, but if you get that support, we know it's not going to work all the time. If something's not working, if you could pick up the phone and know who to call, where the documentation is, don't make me go looking for everything. I'll come back to you time and time again, time and again.
As I tell my team, I say this a lot of time, is support is very key because the way I look at it is people aren't going to remember what happened. They're going to remember how you made them feel. So if you solved their issue quickly and made them feel valuable and got things moving, that feeling is going to stick with them. If you piss them off and you like treat them like, oh, we'll get to you when we get to you, they're still going to remember that feeling and know, hey, I'm not going to go to you because you're not going to value me.
Yep. Yep. And in the end, we can talk about technology and we can talk about all of the things that we do. What we do from a control standpoint, at least for us, our job is to make everything as simplified as possible for the person that's going to walk into that room or that EOC or whatever it is and be able to operate it with a blink in their eye. And if we can do that, that's a victory for us. Okay. But people joke about the sausage making, all right? But in the end, I don't need the world to know the sausage making. And if I have a problem and you can help me, then all I'm going to do is praise you for that. But if you make my life miserable, there are way too many platforms out there that we can use. And I think our industry can do a better job of probably holding each other accountable. I think we're afraid to do that to a degree. Would you? You see, you're nodding. Like I think we're afraid to call somebody out and go, well, they could be better. So I may not be doing it to their face, and I may not be doing it on social media, but I'm doing it to my customers, man.
I've actually called manufacturers out. I don't know if I've done it on social media, but as Steve mentioned last episode, I don't have brand loyalty. And I tell every single manufacturer I work with that. I've gotten a couple who reply, well, I don't like that answer. And I'm like, I don't care.
Right.
And I've actually had one manufacturer that, I was key on, and I ran into some slight issue with them, and I talked to them, and I was like, "Look, I have no hesitation going to another platform." And when you say something like that, and that's what's key, I think it was we're going to call out manufacturer. Yes, you're right. I think as the industry, we're scared of it, but if you're going to call them out and say, "Hey, I'm going to," if you don't fix it, we're moving.
Right.
You got to be able to back that up.
Well, agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
You don't want to wave that false flag, but I could give you an example of a device without going into it specifically, but it was backlogged and nobody could get their hands on it. And another company came in and said, I'm making this and I'm going to do this for you. And we knew the person, but we didn't know the company that well and we didn't know what they had. And that dude just shipped his product to all of my programmers. He sent modules and plugins that he had created for them. He had a direct line to his office and his engineers to make it happen. And we didn't even blink. And then the other company comes back and goes, well, what's going on? And we're like, sorry, but you were treating me like crap. And this guy just treated all of us like royalty. Do you know how hard I have to work to get a piece of equipment from you? This guy shipped it to all of my programmers without even blinking. That's what that type of thing.
Yeah, and I think, and I want to make sure this is nice and clear to our manufacturers, is that treatment, what more valuable is not, hey, here's a nice, uh, you know, water bottle, or hey, I'm going to take you out
Right,
to dinner.
right,
No, it's giving me the product and the service to get the job
right.
done.
Yep.
I can care less if you take me out to dinner. I gotta be able to pick up the phone, call you, and say, I have a problem with your product. Help me out. Um, I had one manufacturer, which I won't go into details, which I actually had many manufacturers I have great relationship with, but one where I had a high profile space and a cable in the space broke. It was defected. It was one of those that, in the cubby, you pull out type deal. It was one of those cubby ones. I called my rep. I'm like, hey, look, the space, the cable is broken. I got to get an RMA on this. My rep goes, no problem. I'll be there tomorrow with one.
Right.
And he showed up tomorrow. Him and my sales rep, is taking his jacket off, getting in the lectern with me to swap out this piece of gear.
Yep. 100%. And that's where, in the end, we can find the equipment to do what we need it to do. We need to find the people and the support behind that equipment that makes us loyal to it. Because here's the thing, I agree. I'm not loyal to a manufacturer. I was for a long time because I spent 10 years working for Crestron, and then I opened a software company programming just Crestron. Okay, so I was kind of beholden there. But we've had to diversify that since COVID, and we've done a very good job, I think, in doing so. So I don't always have 100% skin in the game for any manufacturer. My loyalties are with my customers, and my customers are the integrators that hire me to do their code. That's my loyalty. And I will tell them everything that they need to know, and our team will go. My team knows to go where they need to go. If they jump on a plane to go take care of a customer, they don't need me to approve that. You book a flight, you go there, you let me know on the way, and we'll take care of it. And that's what we need, that level of support from the manufacturers at our level. Okay, that's what. See, it's one thing if I'm ABI SPL and I complain about a piece of equipment. We all know what's going to happen. That manufacturer is going to jump on a plane and take them to dinner, like you said, and all's forgotten. But look, the mid-sized integrators with that hire the tiny little companies like me, you feed that, you support that, and you put people in there to support us, and you'll get much more than you'll ever get from ABI SPO. And that don't mean to pick on them, but they're just a big beast right now. So that part of it is what I'm saying, what you're saying. You be there for me and you show me how to be there with the right support, the right communications. When I call you, you answer. When I need an RMA, you get it to me. Crestron took a beating for a long time. Because even to this day, you say, "Oh, I call 888 Crestron," and people go, because they've had so many people in and out that you don't know who you're going to get on the other end of that phone. Where years ago, they pick up the phone, you knew. They didn't have to check with somebody. That is so critical to what we do beyond the hardware. I could find the hardware. I need people in the support behind it 100%. That's a great point, James. I'm glad you brought that up.
Really great conversation, and not much more to add, except to just, I guess, wrap up to the fact that, from a programmer standpoint, their needs are a bit maybe different than from an integrator standpoint, which may be different from a salesperson standpoint and or a client standpoint. And where we started the conversation is that you have to make products easy to control, and you have to make them not only equipped with the deliverables that are needed, like drivers, modules, and plugins, but also the support required to keep them up to date and to also release updates as needed to stay in sync with firmware. So that would be my summary of this. But in the end, it's the people that are taking care of you that is really what's important, and what makes a product great. The product on its own only does so much. Thanks again, Marc, for being with us today. Marc LaVecchia from BMA Software Solutions. How can people find out about BMA, get in touch with you, and also continue some of this conversation?
Yeah, so Marc, M-A-R-C, at bmasoftwaresolutions.com. You can find me, Google me, and you'll find me somewhere, hopefully not, too far down the rabbit hole. But I'm on LinkedIn, and otherwise I stay off the socials.
And
Oh,
Marc's article will be linked to this episode, so you could check that out as well. And we definitely encourage you to follow Marc and reach out to him. He's got a lot of great experience and insight, and has some a lot more information to share than even he shared today. Um, James, how can people get in touch with you and keep in touch with you, and know what you're up to?
Again, if you want to get a hold of me, Google me. You'll find me. I'm out there. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on the X. I'm on LinkedIn and Ask Programmer community. Things with HEPMA. Again, Google me. You'll find me.
Absolutely. And for me, you can find me at Steve Greenblatt on social media. As James mentioned on the last episode, we're getting involved in Blue Sky, so there as well as some of the other major platforms. My company, Control Concepts, is a supporter of this podcast, and we help programmers make their projects more effective and efficient by providing the API integrations and building blocks that they need to interface with products and add more functionality to their systems. And you can find that at controlconcepts.net. This podcast is on the video version on YouTube and on the audio version on your favorite podcast player. So if you're on one or the other, you could check the other out. And we'd like to hear from you, and we'd like to know what you think. Please join us in the LinkedIn community called Ask the Programmer, where we will be posting about different shows and topics and conversations, and you can comment on episodes. And we'd really be honored if you'd share some of your thoughts about this or other episodes. And until next time, this has been Ask the Programmer.